Tomorrow is August 19th, 2025. And August 19th, 2011 is a weekend, memories of a weekend that used to cause me to have such nightmares. Literally nightmares. August 19th, 2011, I checked myself into a psych ward. I was so desperate trying to find help. I had gone to, in 16 years of being on a benzodiazepine, I had gone to over 25 doctors. I had been in the hospital 3 times for my heart. I had been on numerous, probably 7, 8, 9 antidepressants. I had been on so much medication, and nothing was helping. Nothing was helping. I was getting worse and worse and worse over the 16 years. So finally, after such desperation, the week before, I had called the insurance company and talked to a nurse and explained to her my symptoms and asked her if she could help, if she could, and all. I was seeing a substance specialist, supposedly a substance specialist that I had gone to and asked for help with the benzodiazepines and with the Xanax, and all she did was switch me to Klonopin, and then she later switched me to Valium, and then later she put me on Klonopin, that Xanax and Valium, and it was just, things were just getting worse and worse, and because of all that, these medicines were taking me to a state of insanity, to where I actually checked myself into a mental psych ward, hoping that the doctor would be able to help me. Because the week before, I went to an ER that the insurance company suggested that we went to. And the ER doctor, he then gave me a shot of Ativan when I already had taken my Xanax that day. But seeing me agitated and everything, he just put in more benzodiazepine into me. Nobody ever was addressing the root cause of what was causing all this agitation and anxiety and paranoia and depression and everything. Nobody was addressing and looking at the cause. They were just always wanting to give more and more medicines for the side effects. So while we were at the ER holding 3 bottles of as prescribed benzos, he gives a shot of a 4th benzo, a very short acting one, and then comes back later and gives me a 2nd shot. And I don't even remember leaving the hospital that day. And later I woke up and I was at a sister's house, and Chris was at the pharmacy getting a 4th bottle of benzodiazepines. Granted, I didn't take them all at the same time. No. I took what was prescribed and as prescribed and everything. Well, going on to a very short lasting benzo made things worse and all, because it wouldn't stay in my system as long and all. So then I called my doctor on Monday, and she agreed, yes, to try this one, and she increased the dose. Well, within a week's time, we were back at the hospital, and this time I checked myself into the psych ward, thinking surely a doctor who works in a psych ward maybe would know more than a doctor who worked out of their office. First thing that happened to me, I was taken into a padded room, strip search. cavity strip searched. Here I'm coming in and saying I'm needing help with medicine, and I'm strip searched. Granted, that's probably their policy. My pillows and most of my personal items were taken from me. I had a 3-hour meeting with the attending psychiatrist at this place, and immediately he was wanting to put me on antidepressant, and I said no, and I showed him the list of all the antidepressants I had been on over the 16 years. I said, no, I'm here. I'm trying to find help with Xanax. At that time, I didn't know that, I thought there was some magic dose that I could take and everything would smooth out and be fine. He wanted to put me on sleeping medicine, and I said, no, I've been on sleeping medicine. I don't want sleeping medicine. I'm wanting just help with the Xanax. Well, he told me I wasn't a compliant patient. And I said, I've been a compliant patient for nearly 16 years. And that's what's got me into this situation. I mean, literally, all the medications and everything drove me to insanity. I checked in on a Friday. On Saturday, I went to the classes. The art class, the art therapy class, where they gave you a sheet of paper and there's a head on it. And you're supposed to draw in how you felt, smile or sad or whatever. I went to the music therapy. You listen to a song and then you're supposed to say how that song made you feel. And I wasn't getting what I needed. I needed help with my medicine. And so these classes, but when I stated it, then I wasn't a team player. I wasn't, And the way even the thing was set up, the nurse's station was in the middle, and to me, men should have been at one end and women should have been at another end. But there was men across the room from my room across the room. And I definitely couldn't sleep. Because during the day, I would hear some of these men talk about their sexual fantasies and stuff like that. And sexual stuff and all. And yet, you're not supposed to shut the door at nighttime. And so I'm supposed to go to sleep knowing there's men out across the hall at the nurse's station on down a little bit. So by Sunday, I asked to use the phone to call my husband and have him come get me. And I was told, whoops, there's a car. I was told that if I checked myself out, they wouldn't give me any prescription. And I said, I don't need your prescriptions. I've got so much medicine at home. I don't need new prescriptions. I need help. No one ever talked to me about tapering off. No one ever talked about, and so I didn't even know. I kept thinking there's a magic dose and all. And so they did. I stayed. They did put me on a fifth. An extended release Xanax. Chris literally had to come to the hospital, ring a bell. I didn't get to see him. The nurses handed him a prescription. He went to the pharmacy, and he came back with a prescription of extended release Xanax. Well, in that day's session, one of the nurses had everybody come into a room, and she literally had a PDR book. And she went from person to person to person, and they would tell what medication they were on. And she would look it up, and she would say if it was a good medicine or not a good medicine. And I can remember her saying to me, extended release Xanax? Why would you want to be on extended release Xanax? It just releases a little bit at a time. And I'm thinking, She's not the doctor. And she's questioning me why I would want to be on it. I didn't put me on it. He put me on it. And everything. And all. And so the next day I did call Chris and asked him to come get me. And all. And so I did leave the hospital on Monday evening. And all. And I'm telling you, it terrified me. Being there terrified me. And it only showed me there was no help. There was no help for me. You know, nobody ever addressed the cause of what was happening to me. And I know you all don't know how sick I was, how sick I got to be. I mean, there was times that and I'm telling this because I want the public to know that these medicines are dangerous. They really can be dangerous. And just because you put a new medicine on top of a side effect, you got to get to the root cause. I was only on, by the time I checked myself into the psych ward, I was only on Xanax. That's all I was on. I had gone off of the antidepressants. I had gone off the pain medicine. I had gone off of Adderall. I mean, so much medicine. And I was to the point that I can remember Chris driving me on the highway and I'd be slapping my face, pulling my hair, biting my arm, screaming, begging for help. And that was after I left the psych ward. Yeah. My poor mister. What the state that he saw me. And he would look into my eyes sometimes and he would say, I know you're still in there. I know you're still in there. When he took me to the psych ward, he had to leave and go get me clothes because I wasn't able to wear the clothes. I don't remember what I wore to the hospital, but he had to go get me clothes. And he went at that time to Kmart. And he got me some sweatpants that just had elastic, no strings. And he got them in hot pink and a bright yellow and a turquoise, a bright turquoise. And he got me sweatshirts. And one of the sweatshirts he got me was a cream-colored sweatshirt that had a heart on it. And the heart were from butterflies, little butterflies that formed a heart. And the little butterflies matched the different colors of pants that he had picked me out. And I knew my mister's heart was breaking. He knew I loved butterflies. He gave me this butterfly years ago for my 50th birthday. He gave me a butterfly on our wedding day. And so when he's taking me to a psych ward, he goes and buys me a sweatshirt with butterflies. What we had been through, nobody can understand. And I know most people don't understand why I speak up and why I talk about what happened to us. It was a nightmare. Nearly 16 years. And like I said, 14 years ago, I checked myself into a psych ward trying to get help. And even there, nobody talked to me about tapering off of the Xanax. I wasn't ever talked to about tapering. I was told I'd be on it the rest of my life, that I needed to be on it. But yet I had all these symptoms and I was so sick. I was such a recluse. I had agoraphobia so bad. I couldn't talk on the phone. You know, that weekend, my oldest son was in a friend's wedding. And it was the first time my son had a tux on. And I can remember being so upset. Here I'm in the psych ward and I didn't get to see my handsome son in a tux as he was going to be in his friend's wedding. And it was the beginning of school year. School was getting ready to start. And my daughter my youngest of our three kids, she was, starting her senior year in high school. We should have been out shopping for clothes and supplies and things like that. But instead, I'm in a psych ward. And I told Chris, don't let the kids come here. I didn't want them to see me in that situation. And our middle son, he was in college and all. And, the kids were living at home still. And I couldn't hide how bad I was from them. And I was so desperate and seeking out help, and there just wasn't any help. And so I checked myself out. And within just a few days, things got even worse and worse and worse. So my mister, he went and talked to the pharmacist. And that's when, who'd been our pharmacist for years, and that's when he said, I'll tell you what her problem is. It's benzodiazepines. And so Chris came home and talked to me, and I called the pharmacist, and he suggested that I just stop taking it. That for me to contact my doctor and just not take it. That I was on a baby dose. And it'd be a little bit rough for a week, but then it'd be all over. So I contacted the doctor, and she said she agreed. But you know what? It wasn't over in a week. But at 4:15, at 4 o'clock, I didn't take my next dose. But at 4:15, I turned to God. And that is how I survived these last 14 years. Especially these last 14 years. The first 16 years, yes, God was there for me. Absolutely. But the last 14 years, He really was there for me. Because I could have died, had a heart attack, a stroke. But I made a promise with Him, a deal with Him, and a covenant with Him. If He brought me through, I would tell. So hopefully no one ever has to go through what I went through. So I know it's not a popular topic. But oh my goodness, the difference between me 14 years ago and today. I wish the doctors that had prescribed me, and the doctors that had said terrible things to me, like when your kids grow up, they'll have nothing to do with you. Yeah. A well-known doctor in Huntington said that to me. I wish the doctors that had walked out of their office, their examination room, and blackballed me as a patient could see this one, because this is the strong one. This is the one that fought against and knew something wasn't right. My mister used to look into my eyes and he'd say, I know you're still in there. I know you are in there. And he was right. I was still in there. And so, 14 years after an event that was terrifying to me, because I was afraid I'd end up back there again, I speak about it because it doesn't have power over me anymore. No more. It doesn't have the trauma in my body anymore. I release that. What has the power is right there. Right there. That's where I got my strength. That's where I got my armor every day. That's how I'm here. And so I ask him for, where's my purpose? What is my purpose? Besides for my family, besides helping take care of my grandson, I feel my purpose is to tell my story. Because right there saved me. That saved me. No matter how much my family loved me and tried to love me and protect me and help me, my body was so sick. My mind was so sick. I still, 14 years later, feel like I am still waking up and enjoying life and seeing the world new. And just the other day I was laying out in our pool and I looked up in the sky and I have a picture of it. The clouds had like a little cross, and by the time I got to my phone to take the picture, they had started to break up with air current and stuff like that, but I captured it. It was just like, oh my goodness, there is a cross formed from the clouds above me. It's little things like that that become big things to me. And I hope I never don't have these eyes wide open to see and to enjoy and to share. It's been a long 30 years. But now I'm living such a huge different life. I will never be able to recapture what I missed. But I'm so thankful for where I am and what I do have. There's help out there. There is help. Be your best advocate. Research. There's so much information online. Get questions. Go talk to pharmacists. Go talk to your doctor. There's forums online. There's so much out there that there wasn't in our time. My time. 30 years ago. And then even 16 years ago. But that's why I speak. Nobody's walked through my shoes. So I share. Because if you're out there and you're in the troubles that I was in, you're not alone. There's thousands, there's millions of people. This is a topic that people don't want to talk about. They talk about the opiates. They talk about the addictions and stuff like that. This isn't that. This is prescription medicine dependency. And it's different. It's different. But there is hope. So